Okay, so yesterday you guys, he made a newsprint folder with this paper, put your name and period on it, and you put your project inside. And I demonstrated how to start with Vine Charcoal using a horizontally oriented composition here with this one, and then using the viewfinder to find the vertical composition of this one, and that is this drawing. So yesterday the goal was to create just a contour drawing. Contour means outline. So yesterday you used Vine Charcoal only, just the Vine Charcoal, to create a contour drawing of every object using correct size and proportion according to what you saw through your viewfinder, taking all the objects close to the edge of the page so that you are filling the page with your still life objects. Okay, so today we're going to take that contour drawing and we're going to start adding some shading. Okay, and we're only going to use today the Vine Charcoal and a little bit of compressed charcoal. We're not going to go in yet with the black and white charcoal pencils. We'll start with that tomorrow. Okay, so for today, you're just going to be using mainly the Vine Charcoal and a little bit of the compressed charcoal. That's the Vine Charcoal is the round stick. The compressed charcoal is the square stick. Okay, so what I want you to do is, again, look through your viewfinder to find that composition. And today I want you to notice the shadows. Okay, and if you were absent yesterday, you can do your contour drawing today. And we used only the Vine Charcoal to do the contour drawing. That's the round stick. So make sure that if you were absent yesterday, that you do your contour drawing, not with pencil, but with Vine Charcoal. Okay. All right. So the other thing you can do is I know that we don't use phones much in this class, but every once in a while it's a good tool to use in art. So if you take a picture of your still life setup, this is different than this one, but I'm just going to show an example. If you take a picture of your still life setup and then you go to your filter, your editing tools, and go to saturation. Okay, so saturation is here. It's the one with a little rainbow circle. And if you take that saturation and put it down -100, it turns the picture into black and white. And then you can also a little bit adjust the contrast a little bit. You can increase, instead of making it lower, you can increase the contrast just a little bit. That's up to 40, so it's not all the way, but I increased the contrast just enough, maybe a little bit less. I'm going to do 25 is good. So if I increase the contrast to 25, I can see the difference between the dark values and the light values really well, and there's lots of gray values in between. And so the difference between seeing your picture in color and black and white is that being able to see what tones of gray you need to shade is going to be really helpful. So this is optional. You can just look from your picture and say, okay, the candle is the darkest object, right? So that's going to be shaded darker. The shadow in the handle of the basket back here is nice and dark, just like the candle. So that will be a similar shade of dark gray, right? And then the bottle here is darker than the ceramic basket. And the lightest objects in the scene are the squash and the lime. And then, of course, the lightest value is going to be the background, the white background, right? So make sure that thank you, that you're noticing the tonal value of each object first before noticing the shadows on the objects, because you need to have a shade for an overall shade for each object and then start adding highlights and shadows to it. Okay, so it might be helpful for you to have both the looking at the scene itself in color, not on your phone, but in person. And then also have the tool of looking at your black and white photo just to help you with the values. Okay. So what I want you to do today is to take first I'm gonna look at my picture since I don't have a still life right in front of me. I want you to take first your charcoal, compressed charcoal, and I want you to just take that and put in, just to give yourself a little reminder of where the darkest tones are, because they're going to stay really dark. I want you to just give yourself a reminder by putting some compressed charcoal in those darkest areas. So right there is really dark. This candle, especially over here, is really dark. I'm not going to fill it in as black as I possibly can, but just getting it nice and dark, just as a reminder for later that these are my darkest objects. I see a pretty dark shadow down in here. And then it gets a little bit lighter. This is pretty dark down below here. A little bit more darkness here. I see a bit of darkness on the rim of the bottle here and inside there. That's a noise going on out there. Okay, so, and then I see a nice dark spot under the squash right here. Okay, so that's it. That's all I'm going to do with my compressed charcoal today. Sorry, it's out of the view a little bit. So I just wanted to get some spots where the darkest areas are. I'm going to put the compressed charcoal away, and I'm going to go back to the vine charcoal. Are you guys listening? Okay. And you're going to make sure that you use mostly vine charcoal today, because remember, the vine charcoal moves around so easily. So look at how I'm going to lay the vine charcoal down. I'm going to get an overall gray tone on this ceramic basket of fruit. And I'm just using because vine charcoal moves around so easily, I'm just using my finger to spread that and give that nice gray tone. There is a highlight on the basket right here. So I'm going to leave a little section unshaded right there for now. Right here, that little highlighted area. I can go back in with the white charcoal pencil later, but we don't want to do highlights quite yet. Okay, then we've got, sounds like they're doing some work out there in the hallway. Who's over there? Hey, Brenda, would you mind closing that door for us, please? Thank you. If you can, get the stopper out from under the door. Okay. All right, so I got this value of this object is very similar to the value of this object, but then I see some other areas that are a little darker, so I can just add wherever I see a little bit more shadow, just add it, spread it around. Up here, the top of this is lighter than the rest of it, so I'm doing this. And you can see I'm using my finger for the blending. Fingers work for blending much better with charcoal than they do with graphite. As long as you don't have a lot of like oil on your fingers, like if your hands are clean, this is going to work well. But I do also have a blending stump here in case I do want to use the blending stump for anything. But for now, with the vine charcoal, it really works well with your finger. So you can have both today. I'll have out the blending stumps, but keep in mind you can use your finger as well. Okay, and then the overall value of the bottle is darker than the basket, the ceramic basket. So I'm going to go in and lay down more vine charcoal in the bottle than I did in the ceramic basket. Remember, it gets lighter when you spread it around. So I'm going to do that. Okay, and then you're going to also have your kneaded eraser today. So if you see any spots anywhere that actually do need to be lighter, you just go back in. Remember, vine charcoal erases super easily, so that's why we're using vine charcoal the most today before we go in with our with a lot of compressed charcoal and the pencils. And you can go in and just erase away any of the lighter areas. But you can still see that overall, my bottle is a darker value, even with the highlights. Overall, the bottle is a darker value than the ceramic basket, right? You can also now be, if you didn't do this yesterday, seeing where your cast shadows are on the table and on the wall behind. So I see a cast shadow of the candle back here on the wall behind the candle, like that. And you can differentiate the shadow from the candle because they're two different values. The candle itself is darker than the cast shadow behind it for this object. Okay, and then here's a cast shadow on the table. Here's a cast shadow from the basket and the gourd here. There's also a shadow on the gourd over there. Okay, so what I want you to do, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this, is start getting all these different values in, mostly with vine charcoal today. You can get your really darkest shades in with the compressed charcoal, but don't use too much of the compressed charcoal today. Focus on using the vine charcoal because it is so easy to manipulate with your finger or a blending stump, and get the overall values of each of your items that you have in your still life. I see a dark shadow here that I missed before, so I'm going to use the compressed charcoal for that. Okay, and just begin all your shading. So just remember, today we're using mostly vine charcoal, the compressed charcoal stick for your darkest shadows, and starting to build those in. Leave areas blank and the light gray paper if it is a highlighted area. And then if it's a light gray area, you can still have some of the vine charcoal on there, but use your kneaded eraser and also the other types of erasers up there. If you want, like, if you needed to get like a sharp line or something like that, you could use this type of eraser. Okay, so begin your shading today, and keep in mind that you're not going to be finished with shading today. Tomorrow, I'll demonstrate how to go in and start adding with the charcoal pencil and white and black, and getting more details and more texture to the items. Okay, all right, so let's get started.